Hello again and welcome to the next tutorial in the Imperial Knight series. This time we will finish the torso components with the scaled skirting. This tutorial will be fairly quick, but I will try to add some tips you may find useful or helpful in your projects. If you'd like to make this piece yourself, head over to the Prince Armory Academy and grab the pattern. The patterns for the Imperial Knight series have hand cutting and laser cutting options. Since hand cutting was focused on in the Fantasy Armor series, I'm mostly demonstrating laser cutting processes here. The leather I'm using here is a pre-cut piece of 7 to 8 ounce vegetable tanned leather which was sent by Weaver Leather. If you've ever wanted to make just a small project without having to buy a whole hide, this is a great option, and these are sized great for using for the Glowforge projects. In the Glowforge app, I pressed Ctrl A to select everything, and then I'll click the ruler icon to get the dimensions. Then I'll trim the piece of leather to the dimensions I need. I've taped around the edge of the leather to make sure it lays flat. Small repetitive parts like this is where a laser cutter really pays for itself. The Glowforge app has a preview screen where you can see what is on your cutting bed, and you can line up your cuts where you want, but I was a little hasty when I started the cut and a few scales were off the material a bit. That's not a big deal as I can use some of the scrap and cut a few more. The app makes it easy. I just delete most of the other scales and line up the cuts to the scrap and make a few extras. It never hurts to have some spares. When you're new to laser cutting or using a new machine or just trying a new material, I think it's always a good idea to do some test cuts at different speeds to determine what is optimal. I cut a few test scales on the scrap material starting at a speed of 140, which cut through easily. Then I stepped it up to 200, which didn't quite make it. I stepped it down to 160, which cut fine, and then up to 180, which was almost there but not quite, so I stepped it back down to around 165 for this material at 100% power. With all the pieces cut, I'm now going to dip dye them in the Phoebing's Royal Blue leather dye. From there, I'll be using an acrylic finish on the pieces and wet molding each scale slightly to give it some shape. Alternatively, you can wet mold the leather first and then dye and sheen, but with the leather still damp from the dye and being dipped in the sheen, it's actually a good consistency to hold a shape, so I can save some time by combining these steps. You can also use a tool to aid in forming, like a forming dish like this, or a ball, or even a big spoon, or anything you can find that has a domed surface that you can press the leather over. But for my mileage, I'm just going to go for hand forming each scale. You could also just leave them flat too, but I think the effort's worth it. If you try out a few scales, you should be able to get a feel for it, and you'll have a new opportunity to improve your technique with each scale. If you're still struggling, I will definitely have some videos covering wet molding in more depth in the future, so if you're not subscribed to the channel and getting notifications, well, do that. While the scales are drying, we can make the backing piece. I generally like to choose chrome tanned leather for this. Ideally, pick something soft and supple, but still strong and not too stretchy. You can also use thin vegetable tanned leather, but you'll lose a bit of flexibility. I'm using some 4-ounce black chrome tanned leather. I'll look up the product name and put it in the description if you want to grab this one specifically. And now for the assembly. For the most part this is fairly straightforward, but there is a twist at the end. I like to just start at the bottom and go row by row, working my way up. The very top row gets looped over so it can be suspended over a belt easily. You could alternatively just rivet the piece to your armor, but I like parts to be modular most of the time. You'll assemble all of the scales up to the last 3 rows. You'll skip the 3rd row from the top and assemble the 2nd row at this stage. Then you'll loop the top row over and rivet through both layers of the garment leather as well as the row of scales to finish the assembly. Now you can make a slim belt that can hold the skirt piece. For quick belts that are going to live under a suit, sometimes I like to use a synthetic strap. It comes on a roll so it's easy to make and very durable. This strap roll, the buckle, and the black rivets can also be found at Weaver Leather. As always, thanks to our patrons for their continued support. If you'd like to directly support our content, consider becoming a patron too, or join us here on YouTube. And that's another piece in the Imperial Knight series completed. Please be sure to like and comment to show your support for the channel. The leg armor is up next, and then we'll finish with the arms, gauntlets, and female breastplate. And since you're already subscribed and getting notifications, you'll be the first to know when they're ready. Some of the tools and materials featured in this tutorial were provided by Weaver Leather. I'll put affiliate links to some of the supplies used in this video. Using affiliate links will also help support the creation of future content. If you made it this far in the video, thanks so much for coming along. In the future, I would like to start doing some community recommended builds, and I think pulling from video games would be fun. So let me know what games and armor examples you would be excited to watch and create for yourself in the comments.